Hello and welcome to the Dublin Arsenal preview show. I'm your host, Jonathan Giles, as always. On this week's show, I'm joined by Spurs fan Dermot and regular Gooner guest EAMONN Donnelly to preview our 196th North London derby clash versus Tottenham Hotspur, which is live on Sky Sports Premier League at 2 p.m. Sunday, September the 15th. And as also, please like, comment and subscribe to our brand new Dublin Arsenal preview show. So sit back and enjoy the show. As I said, I'm joined by my regular guests, as always, from our sister show, the Dublin Arsenal podcast, and our previous show, EAMONN Donnelly. How are you, pal?
Evening, Jonathan. Evening, Dermot. Having lamb curry tonight. I don't feel like chicken tonight. And there's only one ball on the pitch there. Take each game when it's merry. How you doing? We're all good.
Good to have you on, EAMONN. Good to have you on, pal. Also joined by another avid fan from our old neighbour, Tottenham Hotspur, Dermot. How are you, Dermot, pal?
Yeah, good, thanks. Thanks for having us on. It's looking forward to the game on Sunday, but possibly slightly more nervously than yourselves. We'll see how we go, though.
It's great to have
another... Already he's beginning to sound like Conor McNamara. Hey, you want to get a pair of them BBC headphones there, Dermot, and I'll tell you, there's a future for you on this show, pal.
I'm telling you, yeah, many a face has made a name for himself from being on this show.
That's
good or bad.
That's it. We set low standards for ourselves, and we continuously fail to meet them.
No, it's great to have another an away fan from another Premier League club. Thanks very much to our first away fan, which was Pete Baker, the Brighton fan, a couple of weeks ago, and to yourself, Dermot. Thanks for coming on tonight. It's much appreciated to get another view from another club. Just to throw out to start the show, a few North London derby facts. To date, we've played 195 meetings between both clubs. Arsenal have the most wins, 82 in total. David O'Leary, our very own, has the most appearances, 35 in total. Harry Kane scores 14 goals in this fixture, still the highest player to score. And all-time record is Arsenal 82 wins, 52 draws, and Spurs 61 victories in this fixture. In this fixture, 196 one coming up on Sunday, as I said. A few things for Spurs. Spurs summer recruits, the main ones. Timo Werner from RB Leipzig. He was on loan, of course, for most of last season. Archie Gray, 40 million quid from Leeds United. Really good signing, I think, and a big future for him. Dominic Solanke, 65 million from Bournemouth. Really good signing, that one. And another one I know that I wrote down, Wilson Odobert from Burnley, who had a decent season with Burnley, I think. Another key addition from Ange Postecoglou. Sports results. So to date, your first game was away to Leicester City, 1-1 draw, Verdi and Porto on the score sheet. The following weekend was against Everton, 4-0 home victory, 2 goals by Son, Romero and Bissouma. And then the last fixture there last weekend, the 2-1 defeat away to Newcastle. In terms of the new signings for yourself, Dermot, were you happy with the summer recruitment from Ange Postecoglou?
Yeah, it was pretty good in terms of the players that they brought in. I think there was a lot of talk at the beginning of the summer about signing Conor Gallagher, and it is a case that although they did make 1 or 2 recruits in the centre midfield area in terms of Bergvall, and Gray can play there, he can play right back as well. And they ended up relying on the 2. I think they're going to rely a bit on the 2 of them, and then the current midfield as it's made up. You're going to see Bissouma on Sunday, who's looked good, I think, in terms of the 2 games he's played so far. He was actually suspended for the first game by the club themselves for laughing gas, of all things, getting caught doing laughing gas in the video, which is gas crack. But then beyond that, you also have, it's a case of who's going to be beside him. I suspect maybe it's Bentancur, who's a good player and has been good for them, or it's possible it could be Sarr. I think that's an important area. Beyond that, the fact that they didn't add that extra centre mid, I think, is significant. But the big signing, really, the one that's worth kind of probably talking about a little bit, because he's only played once so far before he injured his ankle in the first game, is Solanke. I think he's going to be the key player. They've played well so far, Spurs, in terms of they've looked good in the games in terms of attacking and creating plenty of chances. But the issue has been, as has been the case since the second half of last year, is putting the ball in the net. And I do think getting him on the pitch on Sunday could be important. By all accounts, it looks like he might be available to play, and he's definitely the key man if he's going to be there, because how well he plays, and if he can score a couple of goals this year, is going to be crucial to how they get on. Like, there's going to be no shortage of chances created, and they really do play quite a high pressing style with Ange. It's quite a bit like the Klopp style of kind of heavy metal ball. That's sort of what it looks like. There's downsides to that too, but at the same time, it's certainly more exciting to watch. But I do think on that front, Stank is probably the key signing there. In terms of the other ones, we've seen a little bit of Odegaard. He's looked okay so far. And I'm trying to think beyond that, really. It's kind of, we haven't seen much of Gray just yet, but he could be coming in.
Yeah. Timo Werner, say you're happy enough to have him back on. But
I think so. He's a good player in terms of he gives a good impact. I mean, a bit like when he was at Chelsea, he can do everything for you except put the ball in the net. Really is his big weakness. But he's got a good speed and he's a good attacking player. It's a little bit of one of these deceiving ones. I kind of forget that he technically counts as a purchase because he was on loan there last year. But they do plenty of kind of messing around these days, Spurs, with the books in terms of loaning players and buying players and kind of pre-agreed transfers and this type of stuff. We've seen something similar with Brian Hill going out the way doing that. But no, I do think that's a good ad, and I mean they've got a lot more attacking options this year than they would have had last year, which is good, particularly if they do run into more injury issues. But yeah, I think maybe some Spurs fans probably were disappointed they didn't add that one extra centre mid.
Yeah, it's a good bit of, I'd say, like ourselves, a good bit of transfer business, definitely Dominic Solanke for 65 million. If he can get 20 plus goals a season like he did with Bournemouth last year, you could be laughing, but hopefully he doesn't have a great game against ourselves. In terms of your first three fixtures that I read out there just a few moments ago, Dermot, are you happy enough? I know we're only 3 games in. Are you happy enough with what you've seen so far that, what would your kind of expectations be for Spurs this season? Champions League qualification, I suppose, will be the main aim, would it, for Spurs?
Yeah, it's probably that one step down from yourselves, where I kind of see it as being that the top 3 are pretty clear, same as last year in terms of Liverpool, City, and Arsenal. And maybe kind of we need to see more Liverpool before we can definitely say they're going to be right in that mix. But I think Arsenal and City will be going for it again. I do think Spurs are probably competing for that 4th spot. They tailed off at the end of last year, which cost them it. But I do think they're going to be right in that mix again, and it helps that United look really slow at the gate. It's hard to know what to make of them, and I think they're going to be competing with the likes of Chelsea, who are very up and down. We probably don't need to get into them in any great detail to know why that is, but they definitely look like the most maybe coherent of those kind of that bunch. I mean, Villa might be in that mix too, and if they were to continue the way they did, and as you've just seen yourself, Brighton maybe could be kind of competing back at that level after struggling a bit more last year, but they've been a pretty good team for a couple of years now. And then Newcastle are the other one that maybe is in that mix. So I think that kind of group, Spurs will be kind of towards the top of it in terms of the kind of maybe 4 or 5 teams that are going to be competing for that 4th Champions League spot.
Yeah, coming to you, Eamon, we're both Gooners ourselves, and we done pretty good transfer deadline day business, bringing in Sterling and Neto. In terms of Spurs bit of business, Eamon, do you think, do you think they were clever with the signings they made?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
I think Solanke for 65 million they were really charged a lot of money for him, and it was off the back of last season, and the jury's out on him. He's 26 years of age, and it's taken him till now to establish that kind of mojo. So I don't know whether that's good business. I think, Dermot, your analysis is very astute. And when you say Timo Werner could do a bit like at Chelsea, do everything but put the ball in the net. Well, Kai Havertz wouldn't put the ball in the net at Chelsea. That I think is more of a commentary on Chelsea than Kai Havertz. And I think you might find the same with Werner. I think I look at the Spurs squad now, and I think they're riddled with pace.
Yeah,
absolutely riddled with pace. I think their business in the transfer market was decent. And if you were to step back from all the old match day rivalry that we have, and look, I mean, I dread Derby Day. I always have since I was a boy, because on the day I can't stand them. But if you step back from that and analyse it, I'd have a lot more respect for Tottenham as a club and the way they do their business than the likes of Chelsea, for example. You know, Tottenham have gone about their business well. And maybe when we're analysing maybe what's likely to happen in the game, I might cover a bit more about Angeball. But the Tottenham have a good squad and they've done well. I think Angeball is another factor that's going to have to be considered. And I have to be honest with you, it's not a good time to play Tottenham. They're good starters, you know, and their 4 points is actually a total betrayal of how well they've played, I think, in those games, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I just come in and I actually think that's a good point to make ahead of the game, because the fact that they're on 4 points out of 9 with the 3 games so far means there's probably a little bit more desperation than there might have been otherwise going into this, where they might have kind of approached the game differently. Whereas I kind of feel like they're going to have a bit of a rocket on them to start quickly on Sunday. Yeah,
I agree with Eamon, and I say you're the same yourself, Dermot. They're riddled with pace, Spurs, aren't they? Going forward, that's what Ange likes. Just, you know, attack minded, attack.
But they pace at the back as well. Like Van der Ven is massive pace.
For a big lads,
But you see, it's risk and reward.
Yeah.
Like, because he has that massive pace, they play with that high line, and a clever team will work that out. And I'm not so sure they should do that against the Arsenal, because Saka will absolutely torture that. You know, Saka is brilliant at staying on side. You know, he really is. We saw that last year at Tottenham, when Havertz put a crossfield ball to him and he was just on the halfway line and made his dart. You know, so okay, maybe I'll cover it now if you want me to. So Angeball, to me, it's high energy, high octane. I think they ran out of gas last season. I think is what happened. You know, but if Tottenham get a good start on you, and they scored an awful lot of early goals last season there. 3 and 4 minutes, Tottenham are 1 up, you know. And they can do that to you. And if they do that to you, you're in trouble, you know. He's doing a good job there. I think that, as I said, I think they ran out of gas a small bit. But we're a little bit, we're kind of limping into this game a small bit. But look, when we actually preview the game, I can cover some of that, you know.
Yeah, it's I suppose in fairness as well, Spurs had a lot of injuries. I think Mickey van de Ven was injured a few times, wasn't he? I think it's just the way Spurs play. It takes a lot of energy, isn't it? It's up and down the whole 90 minutes, you know. But they are. I suppose it's never a good time to meet Spurs, but at the start of the season,
I'd sum them up by saying, they're a great watch, by the way.
It's exciting. It is exciting on the eye.
But they are. I mean, watching the first Spurs Man City game last season, I think it was up at the
it's in the Etihad,
They were outstanding that day. But they're a great watch. But they're very, very brave, but very naive at times. You know.
Yeah, it's risk and reward, as you said, Eamon, spot on. Yeah, of course, in our previous meeting, it was back in April. We won 3-2 that day. Højbjerg on goal, Saka and Havertz, and Romero and Son got the 2 late goals that put our hearts in our mouth for an Arsenal fan. I thought David Ray really solid in the last 10 odd minutes. You know, he saved us probably possibly from nearly getting a draw. Cardio was brilliant for the Havertz goal, and he was a real bollocks that day, I have to say. But going to White Hart Lane is always tough. And of course, it's funny. I think it was around this time last year we played at home against Spurs. It was actually around 4 or 5 games in when we drew 2-2, and I have to say that day I had a lot of respect for Postecoglou. He's came out with the Emirates fearless. You know, he had a game plan, and sadly, Jorginho's mistake led to the equaliser from Son. But
Jonathan, Tottenham deserved the point that day.
He did. If not, he could have even sneaked it, to be honest, Dermot. In terms of those games, I know it was from last season, Dermot, the home and away games, were you pleased the way he's played against us? You know, being Postecoglou's first season.
Yeah, I think the first game for sure. I thought that looked really good that day, in terms of the 2-2, and that was a good match. And I think that it could possibly look a little bit like that on Sunday in terms of being quite a frantic back and forth. Certainly the second game, a bit more recently in the memory. I think something that happened in that game that you're probably going to see a lot of on Sunday is that Arsenal definitely targeted the set pieces, and in particular they kind of went after Vicario, who at that stage had developed something of a reputation as being a little bit flaky from the likes of corners and that. So I think that's going to be something that you're probably going to see again. I mean, I think I think Spurs ended up going kind of 3-0 down. I can't remember if it was all in the first half or maybe the third one might have went in early in the second, but they were really chasing the game towards the end, and they got 2 late goals, but the fixtures really kind of beyond them at that stage. So the second game was more disappointing, but as Eamon kind of mentioned, at that point they were already kind of at the stage where they kind of run out of legs and the squad was looking a bit thin. They had gone really well right up until a couple of
we were in the middle of we were 3/4 way through a run where out of 18 games we won 16 and drew 1, and Spurs are running out of gas. So it's not the same on Sunday as it was then.
Yeah, I do think there's a possibility it's much more of a kind of a frantic, and looks a bit more like the first game last year than the second for sure.
Yeah, there were both good fixtures, home and away. Exciting, and it's a lot better, say, for yourself, Dermot, than the Conte years. It's definitely exciting as even a neutral. that drab looking for a 0-0. But I have to say, Postecoglou was quite a steal as a manager. Yeah, I have to say, he's kind of like Arteta. He's quite honest in his interviews, isn't he? He'd say what he feels like, even when he's lost to Man City. Like, you were never going to beat City that night. They handed him the title, but he couldn't believe that Spurs fans were celebrating losing the game. Like, how did you feel as a Spurs fan? I know you have probably the same hatred as us to you, but did you feel let down that night that your own was celebrating City literally being handed a title?
No.
I mean, I was really hoping that Spurs would win because they were still in the mix at the time, as I recall, to get top 4. And I don't think it was until maybe it was the next fixture where I think Villa might have got a draw that kind of ended that. But certainly, I was hoping that they were going for the win on that, and that was the way to approach it. In terms of some of the other fans, I mean, actually, I think Postecoglou kind of addressed it at the time, kind of saying, he kept getting asked questions about what percentage of his fan base was hoping that they would lose, and he really kind of brushed those off pretty easily, So I think that wasn't really something they were worried about. But look, it was they gave it a good lash, and I was pretty happy with how they played, and they came up just short. Obviously, that sun mist was huge, but it was very much the case that I was hoping that they win because I mean, top 4 is all they're worried about. And look, whatever the Arsenal are up to, they're Arsenal up to. But at the same time, it's your own position on the table you have to be worried about.
Let's just kind of put the cap on this conversation on the basis that it has no relevance to what will happen on Sunday. But I have to be honest with you. You see, social media, and I'll pick up on, they're only small bits. Most Tottenham fans that were in the stadium that night, if Son had scored, would have been ecstatic and in raptures. Right?
Yeah.
Because if you're a real fan of your own team, you want your team to win. But as Dermot has astutely pointed out, they were in the mix for top 4 at that time. So they needed to win the game. And, sometimes the immature boy in me comes out and says, Son missed that on purpose. But he didn't. He scuffed it, He won't scuff on like that on Sunday if he's put through. But, it was, I'll put it this way. If Tottenham weren't trying to win that game, well, then Son wouldn't have got the ball where he did in the first place. They would have just rolled over, and they didn't. So I don't buy it. I don't buy all this. Like the fans don't play the game; the players do, and those players were professional that night. And if Son scores that goal, you would have. Do you think all Tottenham fans would have went quiet and turned their back? Of course they wouldn't. They'd have been in raptures. So that's all kind of. It's just media stuff. But I mean, if you're talking about the game on Sunday, there's a few things that you need to consider. First of all, it's the great imponderable because we don't know what's going to come back from international duty. Obviously, Gabriel's plane is going to be hijacked on its way back from Brazil. So we know this, right? We know that Thomas Partey will come back on a mobility scooter, right? And we know that Bukayo Saka will come back with his head in the sling after yet, his head in plaster Paris after yet another assault by somebody. We don't know what's going to come back. But what we do know is that Declan isn't playing, right?
He's a big loss.
There's two things there. And we saw it against Brighton with their athletic two in midfield. That's a big loss for us in there. We're going to have to think about how we deal with that, because Tottenham's two in there are very athletic boys, right? So we're going to have to think about how we deal with that. Does that mean if Gabby Jesus is fit, which I understand he may well be, do we bring Havertz back? Because people don't think Havertz is Havertz is really mobile, right? Really mobile and really quick and really intelligent. So that's one dilemma we have. But the other thing about Declan being missing is I was going through the team today. I can't see from those set-piece deliveries on that left-hand side who's going to take him. Declan swings in all of those. So the threat from set pieces depends on the delivery. I can't think of who is going to do that because it's been Declan all the time. So we're going to miss that. And that is a big miss. There's another big question for the Arsenal is, will they take a punt on Raheem Sterling? Because he's fresh. He won't have been through the international rigours. Now, Trossard hasn't either. But he might give Spurs something different to think about. So there's all sorts of questions for Mikel. But obviously, after 6 minutes, Son is going to fall over and get a penalty. And then they're going to bring in an online screen for the virtual Harry Kane to take the bloody penalty and then go up to the corner flag. Spurs always get penalties against us.
Always.
Harry Kane. I think Harry Kane scored 198 penalties against us. But I've covered Ange Ball and all of that. You can't. Arsenal are not pouring at the moment, and I don't want any Arsenal meltdowns. If the fixtures haven't been kind to us, if you look at it, we've got Spurs on Sunday, then we go away to Atalanta on a Thursday night, while Man City play at home on a Wednesday, and then we've got to go up to Man City on the Sunday.
Yeah.
So whatever Joker decided that, whatever configuration of Abu Dhabi fixed the computer that way, that's disgraceful. It's absolutely disgraceful. The fact that Declan won't be playing is disgraceful. We know this. We covered that in detail. But it is what it is. I'm worried about the running power in the middle too. And I keep saying it, but if he wasn't such a young boy, I'd be thinking Etan and Wanyardi to just do something different. But look, Mikel knows what he's doing. We have a good squad. It's just an awful pity that Mikel Mourinho got injured. It really is, because he'd have been absolutely tailor-made for this game, and we don't know. I think Spurs are they really impressed me in the first half of last season. They ran out of gas. I think Maddison is symptomatic of that. I think Maddison particularly ran out of gas after Christmas. I don't think he's the most athletic. I think his energy levels are not probably where, some people sometimes have more innate athletic ability than others, and that's just the way. But look, I think it would be, I can see 2-2 on this game.
Yeah.
And I don't want any Arsenal fans in meltdown if Man City are 5 points or 6 points or 7 points after the next couple of weeks, because I'm telling you, Man City will not keep that pace up the way they've started. In other seasons, they've done it the other way around. That's an aging squad. Now, everybody needs to just take games in chunks, do the best, be the best you can be on the day, try and get the best result. But I'd say about Tottenham, I haven't seen much of them this season, Diarmuid, but I did see them absolutely pummel Newcastle. They played them off the pitch.
Yeah.
Right? And they didn't get on the right end of the result. So look, that's my tuppence worth for Sunday.
Yeah, this is always a tasty game. And I know even Gary Neville has admitted that this is his favourite fixture to cover, you know, so which says a lot. You think Man United and Liverpool will be the top one for him, but it's always there's always goals, there's always red cards, you know, there's a bit of everything in this game. How do you see the game going yourself as a Spurs fan on Sunday, Dermot?
Yeah, I think broadly kind of similar to what Eamon was saying there. I mean, my guess prediction-wise probably would be 2-2 as well. And I think that part of that is because I do think it's going to be maybe quite chaotic. I think if Rice isn't able to play, that is a big loss in that midfield area, because one of the things that Spurs do is that, as well as having Maddison back, he had an injury for a chunk of last year, and he wasn't fully right, I think, towards the tail end of the season but as a result of it. But he looks kind of back at his best now in that kind of number 10 spot. And I think that Spurs will overload that midfield. And they tend to do that with the fullbacks kind of getting inverted and getting into midfield when they have the ball. Yeah. I think if they're able to overrun that area and turn it into a really kind of chaotic sort of fixture rather than Arsenal kind of maintaining a lot of control, I think it could be a tough enough fixture on that front on Sunday. If it does get messy like that, I could imagine, you know, both sides scoring goals, because Spurs do give up big chances, even when they dominate for kind of large spells. And, you know, we've already mentioned that they're going to probably run with that high line, and tends to stick with that pretty, you know, he's not going to get too kind of pragmatic about it. He's going to run with that. And I do think that means that you're probably going to see a kind of really kind of overpacked midfield area. That will be a big part of it. So it will be interesting to see who Arsenal put in there in to try and counteract some of that. But the other thing I think with Spurs, what's going to be interesting to see is that if it's a case that Solanke can get in there and get started. Richarlison's not back just yet, so they do need that focal point. And I do always think that Son looks better coming off that left-hand side. And if so, you kind of would fancy him to score as he often does against Arsenal. It's always a bit of an issue for them, but yeah, I would see a lot of goals in this. I'm kind of hoping that the one thing that could probably really kind of ruin Spurs' day would be if Romero has a bit of a meltdown, as he occasionally does. He's prone to a couple of cards here and there, and occasionally a red, so that would be an important part of it. But otherwise, I kind of do see a lot of goals in this one. I could imagine 2-2, 3-2 to somebody. I don't really imagine it being a low scoring game, but at the same time, Arsenal's defence has been pretty good for the last kind of couple of months. So if they're able to keep that going, you probably would fancy them to catch something on the counter. Whereas, as I say, I think Spurs would be hoping that this turns into a kind of end to end back and forth, you know.
Yes, yeah.
I think the battles could be won in the middle of the pitch, as Eamon said. I think Declan Rice is a huge loss for us in the middle.
Well, Declan Rice is a huge loss because Marino was injured.
Yeah, we're now missing two.
It's a double whammy, you know. I mean, what other club would buy a player who breaks his shoulder on the first day? I mean, sweet Jesus, you know.
Yeah, I absolutely course FPL for doing that to him.
People will stop signing for the Arsenal, as they say, like this. You know what? Jurrien Timber, after half an hour of his debut, done his ACL.
Yeah.
Marino signs and fractures his shoulder. You know, that really is unlucky. You know, Marino was our number one target. We had two targets this summer, Calafiori and Marino. We got both, right? Calafiori's sent home from the Italy squad at the moment, but I think that I looked at that incident. He took that on the calf. It was a stray kick on the calf that the player didn't mean at all because he was spinning around. But that's the rubbery part of the leg that I think it can be sore for a few days, but I think he'll be okay. You see, he may well, if he had Calafiori available, he may well decide to move Jurrien Timber into the middle of the park.
I think Timber, the good thing with Timber is Eamon, he's versatile.
You know? Yeah.
He's versatile and he's strong. Athletically, he's well built for that position. Yeah, we kind of saw it in against Brighton, but look, Declan Rice and Marino going into this type of game, it would have been great to have them, you know. But look, these are the cards are dealt, and we'll go. Just
out of interest, who would be your guess to be the third midfielder if you're presuming? I'm guessing that Odegaard's going to be in there, and I would think that so will probably Partey. So who would be the third one?
Again, you're assuming, Dermot, that these fellas come back fit. Like, you know, I think Partey's played these two games. Odegaard's another one to get through. If you go with Jorginho, you'd need to do. If you go with Jorginho, you'd need to do something like bringing Havertz into the middle as well. You just can't leave Georgie be overrun there. But look, it's just unfortunate for us that we're going into that game with that problem. But I'm sure Mikel knows an awful lot more than I do. And I don't want you looking smug with your little Aussie or Dele's head move. Yeah, I play with Tottenham. I love to play with Tottenham. Not the last Malvinas. I move back to Tottenham. Anyway, look.
We've had a yeah.
The one thing I will say for anybody watching, I've been to the Derby game at 2:00 on a Sunday, and you know, you might think it's a bit early for the atmosphere to be cranking up. I can tell you, the atmosphere will be electric, and by 9:00 at night, everybody will be balloon boxed.
Yeah. Yeah, one way or another, yeah.
I remember there was one day that we beat we beat Spurs 4-2. I think it was Unai Emery. Yeah.
Lucas Torreira
scored. Yeah, that day. And I was with another Spurs mate of mine at that game, and I found myself in the King's Head in Blackstock Road, watching the Merseyside derby, which for some reason was on at 7:00 in the evening or something like that.
That's right, yeah. Yeah.
Jesus Christ, I thought I was after coming out of a nightclub by that stage. The tension of the derby and then the few beers after. Oh, Jesus, you know, yeah.
Yeah, it always one way or another to be good.
I thought it was in Lord John's, yeah.
You go piss up one way or another. Yeah, that's in terms of yourself, Dermot. Since I have you here, and being such, the Northern Ireland Derby's the best, always the first fixture I look for when the fixture lists come out in June. Your favourite memories of this fixture from Arsenal Spurs?
I'm trying to think. I can't remember exactly which year it was, but there was one season I remember in particular when Poch was in. I was a massive Poch fan, and we had a good few years there where I think we were probably ahead of Arsenal for probably the only time in my lifetime anyway. But there was a couple of really good games, back and forth games. I think I remember a 3-2 where Harry Kane scored a bit of a screamer, kind of a bendy one that kind of went into the top corner. Yeah. I think it was at White Hart Lane, if I remember. Probably was before the stadium move. Over to when they were in Wembley temporarily. So yeah, that one was a bit of a standout, all right. But I think throughout that kind of era, those games were pretty good. So yeah, that was definitely a bit of a golden period for them. Yeah,
Eamon, you've seen Arsenal Spurs a lot more than myself and Dermot. What's your favourite memories that sticks out for you in this fixture?
I don't know what avoid you were born, but in 1987, we played them in semi-final of the League Cup, or the Carabao Cup as it's known, and like they were big trophies at that time, and particularly because there was a European ban on English football, so you were only playing for domestic trophies. And the Arsenal at that stage, it was George Graham's first season, and they were an up-and-coming young team, and we played. It was a two-legged semi-final, and we played the first leg and we lost 1-0, and then we went 1-0 down in the second leg at the Lane on a Sunday afternoon. And I don't know how we did it. We were waxy. Well, we won the game 2-1. So I went to a third game. And the third game, we were 1-0 down with 5 minutes to go. And we got an equaliser. And the Tottenham PA announcer had just announced how to get your tickets for the final at Wembley. And we equalised, right? And then lo and behold, when it was just about to go into extra time, none other than the late, great David Rocastle popped up in the 92nd minute and put one in. And to me, that's probably the most other than the Michael Thomas experience, that's probably the most I leapt out of my skin, you know. But yeah, so look, there's been some great derbies, and it's a good rivalry. It can be a small bit toxic among the supporters, but by and large, I'll share an experience. I was actually with a Spurs mate of mine in the corporate section one year, that game that I referenced. And it's typical of Spurs fans to appear in the corporate section because, you know, they get tickets here and there and blah, blah, bit of banter. But I went absolutely ballistic when Torreira scored. And I looked around and apologised to the guy behind me. I knew he was a Spurs fan. I apologise for my exuberance. And he just went, he was only a young lad, Dermot's age, you know, and he just turned around and said to me, "Hey, mate, it's the derby, you know?" And that's the way it should be. You know, you're fervent about your team. You hate losing to Tottenham, or Tottenham hate losing to the Arsenal. But it's the derby, and everybody should respect everybody else's right to follow a club, you know. At the end of the day, we're all football fans. It keeps us alive, you know. And we're allowed not like teams, and we're allowed not like decisions, and we're allowed to lose sleep over it. But at the end of the day, it's football that brings us here, you know. And I'm very glad we had it.
Yeah, well said, Eamon. Yeah, I suppose probably my favourite memory from this fixture was the 4-4 at the Emirates when David Bentley scored that outrageous volley from the halfway line. But it was just absolutely mental, that game. It had everything, you know, right up until the last minute. But there's been so many fixtures of Arsenal Spurs that, you know, probably my most favourite fixture of all the games that we play season in season, you know, aside from the rivalry, it's just always exciting. There's always it's an action-packed 90 minutes. You know, you're guaranteed great drama and great value for money, you know. So yeah, definitely that 4-4 stuck out for me. Dermot, your favourite goal from this fixture? What goal stands out for you?
Ooh, I think I mentioned it already, but yeah, no, that Harry Kane one was pretty nice. But to be fair, I mean, I think we're probably lucky that we've plenty of options between Son and Kane. I don't know, they always seem to turn it on for this fixture to some extent. So yeah, I think I will go with that Kane one that he bent into the top corner.
Yeah, I think David Ospina was actually in goal that day.
Yeah, that's right.
I think he skinned Gabriel on the wing, and then he cut inside and just. I think he was wearing a face mask or something. He just threw it up in the air. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he had a nose injury.
Yeah, it was an improvement.
My favourite goal, actually, I have to say, as much as I hate and loathe him, Adebayor's one where he chipped it up, torn and hit it. I think Paul Robinson was in goal that day. It was just unbelievable, you know. But I have to say, Robin van Persie scored a few screamers in those fixtures as well.
I was behind the goal, Jonathan, when Fabregas ran from the halfway line from the tip.
Were you? Yeah. Oh, look.
Yeah. But my favourite of all has to be, and this is going way, way back,
Liam Brady.
Beautifully dispossessed by Brady. Look at that! Oh, look at that! What a goal by Brady! And well, I thought I might just get the ball and curl it in the corner, Bill.
Yeah, what a goal. That was, jeez, what a goal.
Because I'm full of charisma, Bill.
It's a bit before my time, but I have seen a video of that. All right, yeah.
It
was actually the 23rd of December, 1978. There you go.
Jesus, that Eamon showing his ears there, I have to say.
Happy Christmas, all Gooners.
Yeah, it's been a cracking fixture and always cracking goals. Yeah, you know, you always remember one that sticks out. All right, yeah. I'd just like to say as well, COYG won our goal of the month in August. The chip over for Brogan against Brighton. I think, in fairness, Kai Havertz has had a good August. You know, I have to say now, he stood out for me. But I think we've had a solid enough start. 7 points after 3 games. As we discussed last week, myself, Eamon and Ozzy, the disgrace that is Chris Kavanagh, that gave a ridiculous red card to Rice, killed that game.
Let that go. As Dave O'Leary would say, as I say, the end of the day, get on with it.
Okay, lads. Before we wrap up, I know we've said our predictions, but you've had time to think again. Predictions, Dermot, for this fixture Sunday?
Yeah, I think 2-2 is a solid guess. So yeah, I'm gonna go with that. I'm hoping for a win, obviously, but
you're keeping a safe prediction for a play. I think I'm gonna go with 3-1 myself. Eamon? I'm not saying. I'm not doing Eamon on this one.
No, I can just see 2-2, so it'll probably end up 14-0. But there you go. I don't like this prediction thing, Jonathan, because I'm a fucking Jonah. So, like, you know, So look, look if I was the caller, I'd say 2-2. You know?
Yeah, oh yeah. I suppose I'd go with probably 2 or 3-1 to ourselves, but I think being so early in the season and the form both teams are on, it's going to be a tight game. And I think, as Eamon says, you never know what's going to happen. We have to see what way these players come back after this international break. See how up to speed they are. But it's what we are guaranteed, I'm sure, as Diarmuid says in herself, a cracking North London derby will be had. I'm sure plenty of the drink will be flowing in the River Bar and then White Hart Lane. I'm sure Diarmuid will be coming to the River Bar. We'll get the Arsenal kid on him. we can't turn you, Diarmuid, don't worry. I'd just like to thank Diarmuid this evening for coming on. Much appreciated, pal. And I wish Spurs all the best for the season, as much as that hurts to say. But we're all football fans, so we're going to keep it friendly. No, I do appreciate it, and I hope to have you on again for the return fixture, Diarmuid, if you're free. I'd like to thank Eamon Donnelly, as always. He's away next week, sadly, but we hope to have him back in a couple of weeks for the Manchester City preview. But as always, check us out on the Dublin Arsenal YouTube channel. Like, comment and subscribe, and also check us out on Spotify. Until then, enjoy the sport in North London Derby on Sunday, and we'll talk to you again next week. Thanks, lads.
Thanks, guys.